Hey everybody, welcome to McFarland Minutes. I'm Natalie McFarland, founder and president of McFarland Productions, director at Off Your Rocker Films, and your host. In these episodes, you can expect deleted scenes, in-depth campaign reviews, project highlights, marketing concepts, book reviews, and a deep dive into the creative process at Off Your Rocker Films. We'll also be covering invaluable lessons on mentorship, leadership, and the business of it all. We are so excited to be releasing our episodes every Sunday as your soft launch to Monday. Hey everybody, welcome to McFarland Minutes, Season 2, Episode 4. This is the start of a series. So Ryan and I are going to take you through our creative process 1 month at a time. So the rest of 2026, the last episode of the month, is going to be a piece of our creative process, and we'll kind of dive into the purpose of each one, what it really does, and what we're really thinking as we go along the way. We split this into 12 even pieces, not even, let's be honest, 12 pieces for the next 12 months. Some of these might be pretty short, some of these will be a little bit longer, but some of the topics that we're going to cover is problems, determining what the problem is and what are we trying to solve within the video that we're creating, ideation for the video, getting a concept, a feel, a topic, whatever the thing is, goal determination. So that includes like research, brainstorming, determining what it is that achieves a successful video campaign, strategy. Obviously, we're big on strategy at McFarland Productions, so we'll spend some time talking about what are we really working on as far as when we design a video, what are we thinking about strategically as far as like, are we using this in cross platforms? What kind of multiple cuts do we need? Are we going to do any content repurposing, which we should be? And what does that look like? Storyboarding, obviously, we do a ton of that. Try to be as prepared as we possibly can, make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw the plan away. So that's storyboarding. Logistics, this is a fun one. So we do pre-calls with talent or the client or both. Obviously looking for locations, ensuring that we're good to go with any permitting that's required, and logistics of getting the team there. That's always a fun part. On-site, that's a giant one. So one episode, or the seventh section of this series, good grief, the seventh section of this series is going to go over all the on-site things. That's going to be a long one. Data management, kind of maybe not as cool, sexy of a topic, but certainly one that you do it wrong and you're really going to regret your life later on. Post-production, also a topic that's probably worthy of a 12-step process on its own. It's starting to sound a little bit like a 12-step process to recovery. Maybe it is. But to post-production, that's going to be a long episode. Review and revision, how we handle that with clients, what that looks like, how clients get to have input on the end-all be-all product of the that we're putting out there, distribution of the product, and then last but not least, analytics, case studies, performance analytics, campaign effectiveness, all that kind of thing. So that is the plan for the next 12 months. This will be the first part of that series, and again, it's going to be the last episode of every month. How's it going, Ryan?
Yeah, it's going good. I'm glad you got through all that. That was a lot to unpack at the start. I wanted to
Yeah.
just let you do it, right? And then I'll jump in after. But yeah, I'm excited to get this started. When you and I were mapping this out, I agree with you. Some of these episodes are going to be a little more in depth than some of the other ones, but I think that's what makes it fun. I'm happy to be here. For those of you that listen frequently, I was on, I don't remember which episode it was, but I was on one of the episodes of last season, and I'm excited to kind of build a more stable system, a more stable schedule is probably a better word to say, to be on this podcast. So you'll be hearing me more, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm really I'm really thought I've really been thinking going through this, right, that I now have to kind of reflect upon some of my own processes, because there are a lot of moments where I'm working through maybe brainstorming or storyboarding or finding a problem, and this isn't anything that I've ever written down or necessarily even thought out to explain to somebody else. And so this will be not only an option for me to be able to share it with other people, but also look internally at some of my own processes, which I think is cool.
Yeah, watch us develop an SOP over the next 12 months. Yes, a little bit, but I'm kind of the same way. I think as creatives, we do have processes, but it's just we just do them, it's not
Right.
a step that we actually think about, and then trying to make it 12 exactly was also interesting, but yeah, your episode last year, I don't remember what episode number it was either, but it was on video and the using video campaigns for a brand. I think it was a really good one and honestly a great precursor to this series. So if you haven't listened to that podcast episode and you're going to listen to this whole series, probably go back and listen to that one and then come here. Obviously, video is a huge part of what we do, but really what from the brand side, from the marketing side, obviously Off Your Rocker Films has a similar process, but a little different. We get to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more long format, that sort of thing on this side. For these purposes, we're going to focus primarily on the marketing side, but we'll make mention, I think, of Off Your Rocker Films and when a step maybe differs a little bit. But I think the number one thing that happens is a customer will give us a call, right? And they're really looking to get a video. Maybe it's a brand video, commercial, or social content for that matter, or maybe it's all of it. And they're really looking to solve a problem. It can be anything from brand awareness to I have a new product to whatever. But they're really trying to solve a problem. Ryan, what is some of the things you're thinking about as we get approached by a client and when it comes to solving the problem?
Yeah, well, I think what's really important first off for me is how do I see this problem versus how another individual may view this problem, right? Because my look at this problem could be that I have firsthand experience with it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe it's something that I deal with on a daily basis as well, and I can really relate to it. Or there's a chance that this problem is super foreign to me and something that I haven't really experienced. And so that's really the first thing I think of is can I, as an individual, relate to this? And I guess that also, I mean, you can rope that in with can somebody on my team relate to this as well, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that goes hand in hand with somebody you're going to be working with all the time. If you can use them as a resource, then I think it makes sense. But for me in my creative process, it's easier if I can relate to it as somebody who's dealt with it before. And if I can't, right, if it doesn't really make sense to me, I just know that I'm going to be in for a little bit of a learning curve because I want to be as accurate as possible when it comes to solving this problem. So that's one of the first things that I think of is if I can personally relate to it.
For sure. I mean, I think, number one, we work really hard to stay within an industry that our team in general understands, right? So even
Yeah.
general concept we should understand, but beyond that, there might be specific problems. Like I've never worked in banking, right? And we recently worked with Ag Texas Farm Credit Services. Generally speaking, I understand from the agriculture side, from the producer side, why an entity like Ag Texas Farm Credit Services would be important. Learning it then from the flip side of that was pretty interesting, especially like terminology and things like that really you have a learning curve with, just like you're saying. And I think really number one, working with the client to understand their point of view of the question or the problem. And then, okay, what is the consumer or if they're B2B, the other businesses' view of the problem? And then what is it that particular entity does to solve that problem? And then how can we communicate it in the way that maybe the customer side, whether it's a business or an individual, can understand it, right? It's got to be accessible. If we can't identify and understand the problem fairly quickly, we're probably overcomplicating it. So trying to determine that. Um, let's see.
Another thing,
Problem. Sure.
oh, sorry, I can jump in.
No, go ahead.
Another thing that I like to think about also is how many people does this problem affect, right? Because if
Yes.
what we're looking at is, you can use Ag Texas as a reference again. If what we're looking at is a select group of individuals in primarily one or two states, right? That's a much smaller problem. I wouldn't say
Or
smaller
even less
problem,
than that, like
but
a region of a state. Yeah.
right. I would say that just in general, you can be more specific. But if you're dealing with a problem that maybe affects everybody in the United States, right? Then
Sure.
you have to approach the problem much differently, and that even goes down to like the vocabulary that you're using, right? And then
Yeah.
especially when you start looking at problems that affect people on larger scales, I
Mm-hmm.
think that can really affect how you approach the issue. So I think that that's one perk of having a team that is so widespread, right? Is that we're able to kind of toss that all around. But I think that using Ag Texas, right, as the most recent reference, that problem I had a really good time solving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in general we do enjoy the problems that we solve. But yeah, I think some of the larger problems that affect larger groups of people is when you start talking about gigantic projects that can sometimes cause headaches, but still be rewarding.
Sure. Yeah. You brought up vocabulary, and I think that's kind of a cool one. Especially as it applies to like a regional campaign versus a national, or maybe it's a global campaign, right? Or at least global in the sense of like English speaking, maybe pieces, and then there's probably like a Spanish speaking and like so on and so forth, right? But if we're talking about like a regional problem versus a national problem, if you're working on something regional, you better be speaking their language their way, right?
Right.
So, vocabulary wise, sure, like within that industry, like we need to understand, if we're talking about Ag Texas, we need to understand the nuances of the way that Ag Texas Farm Credit Services has expanded over the years. They've had a couple of different name changes as their expansion has gone along, and what does that really mean? And then also understanding like types of loans, like are we talking about land loans, or are we talking about production loans, and like what is that terminology to understand beyond that. I think there's kind of an interesting thing that comes up, and it actually did come up at Ag Texas, but it comes up frequently, it really with any project. But I think the one that I liked at Ag Texas that's just like a great example of this is I referred to a spray plane, so like an agricultural spray plane. I referred to it as an ag wagon, right? That's what we've called it many times in my growing up. There's spray plane, crop duster. I forget, there was one really creative one that somebody came up with. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
like that one. I even said I'm going to keep that one in my memory, and it's gone now. But it's just funny to like find those nuances and then adjust so that you're utilizing local slang, sort of, right? Their version of the vocabulary. You're speaking in a way that makes sense to them, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
not use tank versus trap when it's very different.
One of the one of the funny things I remember having a conversation with our team about was, and this is slightly related, but what we call fry sauce or goop or anything like
Yes.
that, right? And to me, right, if you're
Or if
approaching,
that even exists
right, I
in
don't
your
even know if
region.
that it could be like chicken, I don't know, whatever you call it, right?
Yeah.
If you're approaching a business, right, and their problem is awareness on that, or they made it new, right, and they want to advertise it,
Yeah.
and you don't even know what to call it, how can you solve their problem?
Right. Like Chick-fil-A has their Chick-fil-A
Chick-fil-A
original
sauce,
sauce, right? Like
right?
if you are calling that fry sauce, number one, it's not the same thing. But number two, I mean, I love them both, but they are their own thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, like totally makes sense as far as that example goes, kind of understanding that problem. The other piece too, I think that is important when you're identifying the problem is if we don't know what the problem is, how are we going to know if we achieved anything with the video?
right.
Because theoretically, there we need to solve or suggest a solution through the video to whatever the problem is that we've identified. I think without that really foundational step, how do you even begin building a video without knowing what the point is, right? The problem could also be described as what's the point? Why are we making this thing, right?
Yeah, I think you look at that, the most relatable thing I feel through that is a movie. You know, when you're watching a movie, it's
Yes.
very early on established what's the point, right?
Yes.
And I think that directly correlates to what we're doing here. You know, you have to have a point, and I think whether you call it solving the problem or your motivation or your drive, you know, you have to have some reason. why you're solving it. And I think that, especially right in our shoes, when it's a problem that you feel driven and motivated to solve, then
Mm-hmm.
you're even more inclined to work harder and do more research and find a better solution. And
Yeah.
I guess that kind of plays into something else I wanted to bring up was, when you're getting a problem brought up to you, right, and you have some sort of plan you need to build. Uh, I also like to think about how many hands it takes to solve a problem, right?
Yes.
Especially, with some of our recent ventures, if you need to maybe bring on more hands, or maybe more hands are going to scare people off and it's going to make the problem more complicated than it needs to be. I think that that's kind of a delicate balance. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Especially as like a production team, right? I think that's a great thing to think about too. One of the problems that you could be working on from our point of view is maybe we're pointing cameras or interviewing people who one have never been interviewed or are not comfortable being interviewed. We've done a little bit with preschools, and you would think like teachers, duh, they're going to talk just fine. Turns out you shove a camera in their face, and I'd put 90% are not so comfy anymore. So, finding a way to bring, like, for us to solve the problem of, okay, what rig are we bringing because of the people we're serving, right? Or what level of production are we bringing because of the people we're serving, or whatever. Thinking about those things is critical to creating a successful video as well. So like the problem is kind of on both sides. It's from the production standpoint, like you're saying. It's also from the topic standpoint.
Yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into this because I know we're going to get into it later down the road, talking about equipment and what to bring and stuff. So we'll save that for now. But yeah, I could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the best tool for the job is something pretty simple, like maybe you don't bring the red out that day. Right? I don't know if shoving a red in the face of a preschool teacher is probably your best approach, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
once we understand the problem, it really becomes like the basis of everything that we're trying to do. The design of the video becomes completely surrounded by what is the problem that we're trying to solve. We're going to take a very different approach from, hey, I'm trying to sell Chick-fil-A original sauce. Obviously, that's going to be very well known, but we'll say, like, I don't know, Spicy Redhead's barbecue sauce. I just made that up. Maybe there actually is a company that
So
is called that. Like, are we selling unknown barbecue sauce guy's product and they've got like a new flavor, right? Maybe it's the spicy one or something. Or are we trying to just have people understand that there is a brand that exists called Spicy's Redhead Barbecue Sauce? Wow, this is really going to turn into an example on this series. But like, are we just trying to get people to know who you are, or are we trying to sell the thing? Because that's a really different approach, even though we're going to approach it similarly in that like we're very focused on the community and like what benefits does the thing have, and like why does somebody want to have spicy barbecue sauce in their life, right? What is it about that product? What problem does it solve? Or what problem does the company solve? That's kind of a very different approach to things, even though in some ways it has similar feel. So I think having full understanding of the problem, I think that takes conversation with the client. I think that takes understanding of where the company is in their goal structure and their growth structure. And like where are we trying to go from the start of the video to the end of the video? Are we growing the company? Are we selling products? Or what are we doing? So that we can be in alignment so that the video campaign at the end is successful for them. They achieved the goal they intended to achieve, not some other goal that maybe is a good one but wasn't really the intent of what they were trying to solve, right? I think that creating like a quick synopsis too of like how can we write this problem in 2 to 3 sentences max in a way that somebody could pick up the piece of paper, read the problem, set it back down, and know what we're doing, right? It should be very simple, identifiable, quick to concept, right? We need to know what we're solving very quickly, even as a person not involved in all the other conversations. in order to execute well, because oftentimes we get 30 seconds to tell you the problem and solve the problem. I get 30
Yeah.
seconds of interruption in what you were probably already watching, right? Because this is probably, if it's a TV commercial, it's probably going up on streaming service, right? So
Mhm.
imagine you're watching a movie and this video pops up and there's just like a bunch of stuff that happens and they're like, yeah, buy from us at the end. And you're like, I don't really know why I care. On to the next one. So
Yeah.
like 30-second, 15-second commercials, I've got that problem sentence. Maybe it's only 4 words long, right? And you
Yeah.
better get it quickly. Like,
I
oh,
think,
that's me. That's me. I have that problem.
and I think you see that what I think about most, right, when you talk about that is usually like a medicine, like allergy medicine commercial
Yes,
specifically,
they
right?
are
Like
so on this.
they're you see somebody with like, and they're not subtle, right? Their nose is like glowing red. It's like, is
Yeah,
this you? It's like,
yeah,
yes, that is you got that's me.
that's me. How did you know? Yeah. Yeah.
So
Allergy medicine, just like it always starts with like, chew. Like, okay, they have allergies. Got it.
yeah. And then my favorite part of those allergy medicine commercials, I remember Claritin did this for a while, is the screen's like blurry and grainy for a while, and then they take the bottom and they peel it off and it's clear, right? And it shows, here's our solution. Is your life grainy and hard and sneezy? Well, peel it off with Claritin or whatever it happens to be, right?
Yeah.
They're showing you that solution. And I think
Yeah.
that's
And they
funny.
honestly have a great name for that too. Like
Right.
clarity, Claritin. I got
Yeah.
it, you know?
It's
I love it when it's like a sneeze and the cat walks by. You're like, it's the cat's fault. I get it, you
that's
know?
me and that's my cat. Like I
Dang cats.
yeah,
No, yeah,
that's funny.
I don't know. We try not to be quite that like, you know, here it
Yeah.
is when we get into it, but really that's what you're trying to achieve pretty quickly is like
Mhm.
how could I establish in how can I get you to identify what the problem that I'm solving? So like, here's the problem.
Mhm.
Oh, by the way,
I
it's me.
I meant to bring this up earlier when you were talking about the hot sauce, right? And whether
Yeah.
we're trying to capitalize on a sauce you already know about or introduce a new sauce. And I think that also leads to, right, this is a delicate balance, but there can be uh, many problems that all have the same solution, or there can be
Yes.
multiple solutions to one problem. And
Yes.
right, I think if what that is there's a new hot sauce. What do you call it? Red hot hot.
Spicy redheads barbecue sauce.
Yes, that's what we're looking for, right? So if what they're
Uh,
looking to do is just, hey, we just want more people to know about our hot sauce, right? We just in general want more people to know about the hot sauce. Or I guess you'd say the problem is not enough people know about our hot sauce. There are multiple solutions to that problem.
yeah.
And right, so when I think about some of the content that we've done, are many people going to watch a half an hour piece about hot sauce they've never heard of before?
I
Likely,
mean,
well, maybe some people might be into it, but
there are
if
people that
yeah,
spend an exorbitant amount of hours watching people clean rugs on Instagram. So, done
you're right,
well.
maybe you're right. If it's done well enough, maybe the hot sauce gets spilled on the rug. They start cleaning the
Oh,
rug, and then it flips. Right, it
oh.
takes a turn.
Okay, everybody out there who owns a company with hot sauce, we've just come up with your commercial. Just
That
spill
could
it.
just
That's your next viral social media moment. Pour it on a rug, try to clean it up.
right.
Maybe just pour more, you know? Or maybe you like pour, I don't know. You could really, okay.
You just that could just be every commercial. Is it starts with hot sauce on the rug and then something happens after that, but you never know what it's gonna be, right?
Yeah, they're like cleaning it and you like sniff it and you're like, ooh, that actually
Oh,
smells
that's
good. And you're like,
yeah. Well, rug turns into a burger. Rug turns into a chicken wing. All
maybe.
sorts of stuff
Maybe you
happen.
start dreaming. Maybe like as you're cleaning the rug, you're like daydreaming about buffalo chicken wings. I don't know.
You
Wow.
could
Okay.
sponge, wring out the sponge. Hot sauce comes out, right? Then
Hmm.
anyway,
Okay, we could really get into this one.
it's long. That's long. What I was ending up with was there are multiple solutions to a singular problem, right? So whatever route you take could check many boxes on its way. If if it's one of those. But there are also, there's the other end of that where there's one hard and fast solution. It's like this is going to be the way to solve your problem. And I think it's fun when you have the option to choose multiple methods.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I agree. Um, so I think basically what we're saying in this episode is that when you are considering doing video work, really any creative work at all, we're doing this series on video production primarily, but this creative process really applies to anything that you're doing in marketing. It can be cross functional. We're going to change things out, like maybe you don't need to know about camera gear if you're building a website, but the reality is that the concept is the same, and it should all start with what problem are we trying to solve. I think when you're considering video work as a brand or as a company or as an organization event, whatever it is, come with in mind what is the problem that my product, item, service event solves, and then like what is the problem within my organization, event, whatever it is. What is the problem within that I'm trying to solve for my client, and maybe that is a problem for me and I'm not getting the word out on, right? Ticket sales is a great problem, right? Like I want to, my problem that I'm solving for my client is here's some really cool entertainment. The problem you're solving for you is ticket sales. So, kind of understanding that two-way relationship of what that problem is kind of starts this whole process. I think from our perspective, if you called us and you said, hey, I'm a company, and you were unclear about your problem, we're going to spend some time finding which problem are we really trying to solve here. So, I think, do you have any other comments on step one? Figure out the problem. What's the problem?
I think we got it. I think you just summed it up right there. I think we hit all the main points and a couple extra throughout the podcast. So
Yeah,
yeah,
some ideas for a barbecue sauce company there. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Everybody out there, this is the first step in the process of us taking you through our 12-step creative process. Starting to, again, just sound like a road to recovery a little bit, but maybe it, again, maybe it is. But anyway, we will be doing this last episode of the month, every month. Thanks for joining us.